Dun, dun, dun. You guys know what it's time for. It is another notebook review video. This one comes from the lovely folks over at Dingbats, and they've also thrown in some pens for us to take a look at, so let's go do that. Before we get into reviewing this one, as a disclaimer, I obviously have my own preferences when it comes to notebooks and planners, but what I more so care about in this video is this journal right for you? We're going to take an in-depth look at this one so you can make informed decisions. Starting first by having a look at the Dingbats website, you can see that they have a range of different notebook collections, including the Wildlife, Earth, and Pro notebooks. The one that we're reviewing today is from the Earth collection. In particular, this is the Emerald one. And while at the time of filming this one is sold out, they do also have a variety of other colours, including a super pale, almost purple one for the Arctic, a sky blue one for the Great Barrier Reef, a tangerine coloured one for the Serengeti, and a lime coloured one called Yasuni. All of these ones are listed as being A5 in size, so 15.5 centimeters by 21.5 centimeters, and they all come with a dot grid. It also notes that you get access to a mini course on bullet journaling for free if you make a purchase, and 2% of your order will also go to WWF UK. It is also good to know that they are based in the UK, so if you're from that area or somewhere close by, then the shipping on this notebook is probably less expensive when you compare it to places like the US or Australia, etc. That said though, they do offer worldwide delivery, but in terms of the features of the notebook in particular, all the notebooks have faux leather covers that are 100% vegan certified, they open up flat for easy use, we get 2 bookmarks, 184 numbered pages, with the last 16 pages being micro-perforated, we have 3 pages for an index, 2 pages for a key, a future log space, information about the location that the journal is based on, a pen holder, an elastic closure, and an expandable pocket. They also have more information on their website about their green initiatives, because being eco-friendly is a focus for this company. If A5 isn't really your size, or if you don't really prefer dot grid, they do also have a range of other notebooks in their Wildlife collection and their Pro collections. This includes a range of different colours, including greys, blues, yellows, purple, red, different paper types including ruled, grid, and blank, and different journal sizes including A4 and A6. At the time of filming, the A5 Earth collection notebooks, like the one that we're going to be reviewing, are $21 US, but they also have a nice handy drop-down menu so you can change this into different currencies to see how much it would be for you. The A5 Wildlife collection is a slightly cheaper price point, coming in at $19 US. But these notebooks also have some different features, including a different number of bookmarks, and they also don't list any of those pre-printed pages like the future log, key, or index. You can see that the notebook did come with some slight denting on the corner, but I do not believe that that is typical. Because this was shipped from literally the other side of the world and around Christmas time, I'm not expecting that this is a common issue. But looking first at our structural features, as it said on the website, the notebook is 15.5 centimeters across by 21.5 centimeters tall by approximately 1.8 centimeters thick. The cover is a faux leather, 100% vegan materials, and while I've got the green or emerald version, this does come in a range of different colors, depending on whether you get the Earth collection, or the Wildlife collection, or the Pro collection. You can see that the notebook does have an elastic closure, which is fairly stretchy. It's certainly less rigid than some of the elastics we've looked at previously, so I feel it would nicely accommodate journal growth without getting kind of misshapen or deformed, because it is as stretchy as it is. You can see that that elastic is still designed though so that it sits nice and flush to the backside cover, so that then when you're working in your journal it's not kind of like hanging out around while you're trying to do things. That's something that can sometimes irritate people in terms of their elastic closure, so it's nice that this one sits flush to the inside cover. The journal comes with a pen loop in the side here, which is attached into the back of the notebook, and you can see we don't have any gilding on the edges. The paper does sit slightly away from the edge of the notebook, so it is going to be protected from this outside cover. If we open up our notebook though, as the website listed, we do have a pocket in the back. You can see that it does have some information in the back about some of their products and also about the company itself, that kind of stuff. We also have a little ticket here that asks us about, this notebook in particular. If we have any issues, then we can quote this number because I take it that's the specific product number. But having a look at that inside pocket, you can see it doesn't come all the way to the spine edge of the notebook. It's a little bit shallower here. So if we measure up that pocket, it is approximately 10.6 centimeters deep by roughly 20.1 centimeters tall. It doesn't open too terribly far, so you probably wouldn't want to store anything particularly thick in here. Not that you'd probably want to do that in general though, because you still want your notebook to lay flat and close and all of that kind of stuff. You can see that the back cover does have this print of paper, so we've got lots of different animals that are native to the area that this notebook is for. And if we flip to the inside cover at the front, we also have some information about the area. If this isn't really for you though, of course you could just put some double-sided tape down and stick this page to the inside cover. But continuing with our structural features, we do have some bookmarks. So as said, we have 2 bookmarks. One in the green color and one in a darker black or kind of a charcoal. And both of those bookmarks are certainly long enough to be able to be used as bookmarks. They just stick out the bottom, so totally usable. If we turn to the middle of the notebook, you can see that even without page training, it does lie flat. Though if you give it a press down, make sure that it's actually fully kind of flattened, then it doesn't close itself again. You can nice and easily use the pages without having to worry about them closing in on each other. In terms of our layout features, if we turn back to the inside cover, so we have this information here, which is special for these notebooks. If we flip over, we do have a nameplate page. So this Dingbats notebook belongs to, and then you can write your name in there. This page is stuck to the inside kind of cardstock-ish kind of paper, though the cardstock isn't super thick, which is kind of nice, and you can either very gently separate them, or what I prefer to do is usually just give a light kind of tug to help make a crease where those 2 pages connect, so I don't have to pull the glue apart. Just makes this page a little more usable. If we flip over from here though, another specialty page we have is about how to use the journal pages. So how to create your key, how to color your tabs, and mark your pages. So you can see these refer to the small circles that we have on the side of the pages. This is what they're referring to when they're talking about the tabs. So you might have it that all pages that contain information for work could be colored in blue, and then you can write your little work key here. So work, color in blue, and any of the pages in your notebook that are related to work, you could color in that little tab if you wanted to, or mark it in some way. In terms of the number of spaces we have for that color key, we have 12 tabs down the side of the page, and there's 12 sections to write in what those keys represent. They also talk here about using different symbols for your journal entries, just like the bullet journal system in general, though they have their own suggestion of different icons that you might want to use. After the tab key, we then also have a page for the color key and Dingbats key. So this is where you could put like, your dot for a task, your crossed out task, all of that kind of stuff. The color key is open, so you can really use that as you want to. So maybe do a little blob of the color and write down what the color represents. It doesn't have any pre-sectioned boxes to fill in terms of putting in those colored segments. And then after this we have the index pages. So they have a space to list out the page numbers and a description of what those pages contain. And we've got 1, 2, 3 pages for that. After this we have a pre-sectioned out place to put in your future log. So it has the future log header at the top here, and it also has some little dividers so you can divide your pages up. In terms of those dividers, it's looking at dividing the page into 3 columns, 1, 2, 3, or 3 rows, 1, 2, 3. In terms of the rows, it actually leaves the first 2 dot grid spaces blank, I assume for a header or something similar. In terms of the columns, we have 9 spaces across, 10 spaces across, and 9 spaces across. And then in terms of the horizontal spaces, we have 2 for the header, 12, 12, and 13. Though this 13 is probably because on each of these pages we do have page numbers. Each of those page numbers are just tucked into the outer bottom corners, and they're done in a light grey colour. So a light grey circle with the number and I guess you could say white. Though as you can probably tell now, these pages are more cream or kind of ivory coloured. You can see that each of our pages does have rounded corners, so no sharp edges. In terms of the future log space though, we have pages 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then after this, we then just have the regular pages. So these ones don't have any dividers at the top or on the sides, but they do have those little tabs that we talked about before. And those are marked in with a very light grey dotted line. Another layout feature was those pages in the back, which are semi-perforated. So it might be hard to see, but we have a very slight perforation just inside of the first column of dot grid boxes. In terms of the dot grid dimensions though, it is 14 centimeters or 28 grid spaces across by 19.5 centimeters or 39 grid spaces down. The nice part about 14 centimeters across is that you can very easily divide that into 4 columns, with them being 7 dot grid spaces each. This makes it really easy to do monthly calendars where you have 4 boxes on one side and 3 boxes on the other, and have nice large boxes for writing lots of information. In terms of paper features, we do have 184 pages as listed on the website, but this includes the first 4 pages which are designated as being a future log space. As it says, each page of your Dingbats is 100 GSM, cream coated, acid free, and totally fountain pen friendly. As we talked about, the paper colour is much more of a cream than it is a white. If we compare it with this offcut that I have from one of my Archer and Olive notebooks, you can see that there is a distinct difference in that colour. So much more of a yellow tone rather than a pure kind of white colour, which is quite nice in terms of paper glare, that kind of thing. So if you like to use your journal outside, this is going to be a lot nicer on the eyes. In terms of the dot grid itself, the dots are darker than what you'd find in something like an Archer and Olive, but they are roughly the same size. The paper feels super smooth because it is coated, like it says on the website, and now it's time to think about our pen testing. So flipping to the back of the notebook, we're going to work on this page here so that we can flip this way and see if we have any kind of shadowing through the paper, and we're also going to be able to flip back and see if we have any ghosting or bleed through. As part of this, we're also going to test the pens that come from Dingbats to see how they perform in their notebooks. The Atopens are a set of fine liners, so we have an 08 size, an 05, an 03 and an 01. All of these are black fine liners. So very much up my alley in terms of the pen tests that we typically like to do. According to the packaging, these are archival quality, waterproof, bleed-proof, and smudge-proof. They have water-based pigment, and we should keep them horizontal, and they're light fast. Comparing them to a Micron, you can see that the Micron is slightly shorter when the caps are on, but if we take the caps off, you can see that the barrel of the Micron is longer. For our pen testing though, we're trying out a range of different pens, including fine liners, regular ballpoint pens, a pencil, other markers, and even a Sharpie. A new addition to our pen testing lineup is watercolor, which we'll get to at the end. I'm certainly not a watercolor artist, so I kind of tried to do 3 different swatches, one with a lot of color, minimal water, one with a lot of water, and one with wetting the page first and then adding the colour to this. We of course also have our smudge test that we're going to do at the bottom, so that one being for a fine liner and a dot pen. The fine liner I chose this time was the Dingbats Atopens because they specifically said that they were smudge resistant. And the dot pen was of course the Zig Clean Colour dot marker. For both of those in the smear test though, we had a 1 second dry time, a 5 second dry time, 10, 20 and 30 seconds. For any of the pens that would typically be used to colour in sections of your notebook, we also had swatches that went over the pen area multiple times, so moving from left to right, going over once, twice, 3 times and 4 times. For the Zig Clean Colour dot marker, I also put in varying sizes of dots, so going from least pressure on the left to most pressure on the right. I will just start by saying that even after having to wait an excessive amount of time for these ones, and then doing the watercolour, the Caran marker still smudged. So this paper is certainly coated. You can tell that it's coated because the Uniball Air Micro feathered a lot less than it would in typical notebooks, or notebooks that don't have coated paper. So in that respect, I can totally see why this paper may be fountain pen friendly in terms of not having the ink feather. You will have to wait a little bit longer in terms of drying though, because the ink sits on top of the paper rather than sinking into it. Now as everything is dry though, if we turn back this way to look for shadowing, you can see that pretty much all of our pens shadow through, including the HB pencil, and that's because this paper is only 100 GSM compared to the 160 GSM that we've looked at in other notebooks. Once you write on this page though, it's going to be a lot less noticeable. If we turn the other way though, so going from this page over, we can have a look at bleeding and ghosting. So we do have ghosting for pretty much everything, except for the HB pencil. That one doesn't really ghost through all so much, maybe a very slight amount. We do also have some ghosting from the watercolor, but I think in all instances I didn't really apply enough water to get proper bleed through. Plus with the coating of the paper, it means that that water sits kind of at the surface, it doesn't really sink into the paper as easily. For the Charon marker, the Sharpie, and the paint liner, we did have bleed through, along with the Uniball Air Micro, which is pretty typical for those pens, so not so unexpected. The Charon marker though has bled through this one more than it has in other notebooks because again, we're working with 100 GSM paper, not 160. The darkening of the Papermate Inkjoy is mainly user error because the Inkjoy I was initially using was running out, so I had to go over it again with another Inkjoy, which means that it does look a little bit darker than it normally would, but that's mainly because we went over it twice with pen rather than all of these others, which only went over once. Flipping back though and having a look at our smudge test, so as noted before, the Charon marker, being quite an inky pen, didn't even dry in the amount of time that it took from writing out with that and getting through all the rest of this. So Charon markers probably aren't one you're going to want to use in this notebook unless you're going to give them a very long time to dry. For our smudge test, I found that the Atopen did actually take a fair while to dry, so it may be smudge resistant, just not on this paper in particular because of the coating of it, so that ink sits on the surface like we've said. I did find though that the Zig Clean Color dot marker didn't smudge after the 20-second dry time. So it smudged at 10, but not at 20 and not at 30. The smudging that we get for the Atopen was considerably less for the 20 and 30-second options, but I did still see slight smudging with those. So that brings us to the question, who is this notebook right for? Well, if you're looking to be more eco-friendly in your notebook choices, then this company may be for you. If you want some of the money from purchasing the journal to go to foundations that are focused on keeping our wildlife safe, then this is a good option. If you like journals that come with pre-printed key spaces and index spaces, or if in particular you like numbered pages, then this is certainly an option to consider. If you think that you'd benefit from having that extra grid spacing box horizontally and vertically compared to most of the other notebooks that we've looked at, and if you prefer paper that isn't stark white, you'd more prefer something that's more of a cream color. If 160 GSM paper is too thick for you and you feel like it kind of feels like cardstock, but you're looking for something that's going to be fountain pen friendly, then Dingbats is going to be a great option. If you wanted to grab yourself something from Dingbats, whether it be the notebook or the pens, then jump down into the description box where we have a link to their website, and make sure you use the code GIVEME10 for 10% off your first purchase. We love savings. Such a gorgeous color and possibly perfect for your next notebook. If you are still on the hunt though, we do of course have our full playlist of all of my review videos, so click or tap on that one and I'll see you over there.